Preparing to live stream.
Good afternoon and welcome to Mountain Minds Monday, a program of Tahoe.
We'll be getting started in about 2 minutes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mountain Minds Monday, a program of Tahoe Silicon Mountain. My name is Ellen Rayner, and I'll be hosting the event for this evening. Thank you for joining us. Tahoe Silicon Mountain is a nonprofit that's been here in Tahoe for 11 years now. Our flagship event is Mountain Minds Monday. It happens the second Monday of the month and has been for over 11 years now. For the last 2 years, you've been finding us only on YouTube, but we'll be returning to in-person soon. The other monthly event that we host, which we have not restarted during COVID yet, is First Friday at 4, which is an entrepreneurs roundtable. And as the name would suggest, it's the first Friday of the month. We are excited to announce we'll be returning to in-person on June 13th, so the second Monday of June, and we're going to have our first annual community picnic. We'll be doing that outdoors at the Truckee Regional Park at 5 p.m. And of course, the way to make sure that you're informed of what's going on with Tahoe Silicon Mountain is to subscribe to our email newsletter. We only send 2 or 3 emails per month. You can also subscribe to our Facebook group where you can communicate with other members of our community. And certainly while you're on YouTube now, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can look through some of our past events and be informed when we go live with future events. I'd like to take a moment to thank Dave, who has been serving as a board member for Tahoe Silicon Mountain for several years now. And he has just finished his term of service. That means we're looking for a new board member. So please reach out if you're interested. Even for these virtual events, we do have a suggested donation of $5. The easiest way to make the donation is to go to TahoeSiliconMountain.com and click that yellow donate button in the upper right-hand corner. And the reason for that is we do, as a nonprofit, have all of our official filings and technology subscriptions, and have some support with our social marketing. So this is the existing volunteer board. We are a 100% volunteer-run organization, and you have an opportunity for your photo to be here too if you'd like to volunteer as a board member. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Our gold sponsor is Holland & Hart. Holland & Hart has been our longest sponsor. They are a law firm with offices based in Truckee and Reno. Holland & Hart strive to lead their profession by giving the highest level of service and loyalty to their clients, and by forging a team, lawyers, paralegals, staff, and other professionals whose work is infused with their values. The founder's philosophy was simple: keep going up, and if you get stuck, there's always another route to the top. This is where the spirit of the firm's pioneering and innovation began. Our silver sponsor is Mobo Law. Mobo Law is a full-service law firm that started in Truckee. Mobo Law provides excellent representation in an approachable, responsive environment with a human touch. The firm is comprised of attorneys and support staff with integrity and a solid work ethic, providing exceptional work that truly benefits their clients. They love their work and it shows. We also have quite a few community partners: the Nevada County Tech Connection, Tahoe Truckee Media, the Truckee Tahoe Airport, Lyft Co-work Space, where we often broadcast from, and the Truckee Chamber of Commerce. And you too can become a sponsor of Tahoe Silicon Mountain. Just follow this bit.ly link, and I will point out that bit.ly links are case sensitive, or you can send an email to sponsorship@TahoeSiliconMountain.com. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to the main event. Our topic tonight: Tablet Command Real-Time Incident Response. So will all of us in Tahoe recall the Caldor and Dixie fires in last summer? Made the residents of the Tahoe region keenly aware of the need for real-time incident response. Many times in an emergency situation, the status is monitored by whiteboards at a command site. Tablet Command is a real-time digital tool for incident command, which was used during the Caldor fire, the Dixie fire, and several other large fires over the past few seasons. Tonight, we'll hear the story of Tablet Command, how it originated and has grown into a tool that's being used by multiple emergency response agencies in California and beyond. We have the founders with us this evening. Will Pigeon and Andy Bozo will present on how Tablet Command came to be and the advantages of using a digital system over pens and paper. They'll review how the platform enables the command center to develop emergency response strategies based upon current maps, create checklists of critical tasks, and enable custom configuration depending on the organization's requirements. So our two speakers and two co-founders are Andy Bozo and Will Pigeon. I've actually known Andy quite a while. He and I went to college together. Andy has 24 years of experience in the fire service in California and in Washington State. He's currently a fire captain with a large Northern California fire department. He has a visionary mind and has provided many of the conceptual aspects that are foundational to tablet command. He's passionate about continuing to improve the tablet command solution by using it in the field, learning from other users' experience, sharing his own experience. Prior to working in the fire service, he was a teacher and attended USC before transferring and completing his BA at Middlebury College in Vermont. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Will Pigeon began in the fire service in 1998 as a full-time firefighter while pursuing a degree in information systems from San Diego State University. He's worked in the San Diego region as a firefighter, paramedic, fire dispatcher, and flight rescue medic. He began his career with the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District in 2005, leaving at the end of 2020 as an assistant fire chief. While at Contra Costa County Fire, he oversaw the communications division of the fire district, including the 911 center, radio, telecom, and information technology. He's passionate about fire communication systems, computer networking, database integration systems, computer programming, and bringing functional mobile technology to the fire services industry. He represents an unusual mix of fire service insight and technological expertise. And so I'm going to stop sharing and turn over to Will and Andy. Thank you, gentlemen.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us, Helen. It's exciting to talk to everybody tonight, especially because we were just in that neck of the woods a few short months ago.
Yeah, Ellen, thank you so much for having us the opportunity to present this evening. Let me just get the screen sharing going here. Okay, we able to see the screen, Andy?
I am.
Awesome.
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. So for tonight, what we're going to be covering, as Ellen mentioned, is we're going to just talk through tablet command, how it came to be, what it is, what we're working on in terms of future developments, and who's using tablet command. As Ellen covered, William Pigeon, myself, Will, go by Will, founder, CTO, founded the company and grew up in the East Bay of San Francisco. And Andy?
Yeah, went to school with Ellen back there in Vermont, and started my fire career with Cal Fire. That was after 5 years of teaching 7th grade science, and actually some of the work I did in the biology department at Middlebury College sort of put the cherry on top in terms of fascination with fire and in the wildland environment, but gravitated towards a career in the municipal fire services and brought me back to California in 2007, where I work. Will and I both work for a department that handles every kind of emergency you can think of, from a high rise to wildland fire and everything in between. We both have experienced several wardrobe changes during the day as on duty as firefighters. So really happy to be here. It's a big honor and excited to talk about it. So I guess I'll jump in here. In 2007, I had already had a couple of seasons at Cal Fire under my belt, and I was working for the Tacoma Fire Department, actually the Tacoma Fire Department, for those of you who follow the comedy show. It's nothing like it, but busy little fire department up in the Pacific Northwest, and transferred down to Contra Costa County. And went through the academy again, as we don't really do laterals in the fire service, or weren't doing them at the time. And in the middle of the academy, our department suffered 2 line of duty deaths. Will had already been in the field about a year and a half. These line of duty deaths for Fire Captain Matt Burton and Fire Engineer Scott Desmond were shocking to all of us, because this was the kind of fire that we've been on dozens of times before. And this happened to be in the structure environment. So this was a little 900 square foot home in San Pablo, California. And what came in as a fire alarm turned into a full-blown structure fire with two elderly people trapped. What ensued afterwards were two very brave firefighters doing the very best they could to save those two elderly people. And in the process, they were also killed in the line of duty. And so 4 people died that night, 2 of them firefighters. With every line of duty death that happens in the United States, and it happens in the structure and wildland environment between 30 and 50 times a year, there's always an accident report, very similar to when a plane crash occurs. There's an NTSB report and several other agencies report on it. It's the same is true with firefighting. It's an industrial accident, and it is viewed as such, and it's investigated as such. And all of the peripheral aspects of that with regard to training, incident command structures, equipment used, orders given on the radio, everything is scrutinized. And so after the dust settled and the report was issued, there were about 115 recommendations to our fire department. And about between 20 and 30 of those had to do with communications and incident command. And just to summarize, incident command was sorely lacking. And we fell into the same category as every fire department in the United States, whether it be in a wildland tragedy or a structure tragedy or anything in between. There were 5 causal factors. And unfortunately, we nicknamed them the NIOSH 5. And we're taking that from an incident command instructor that's well revered across the country named Anthony Castros, who's a retired Sacramento area battalion chief. He calls them the NIOSH 5 because they are 5 things that just align. If any one of these things can lead to a line of duty death, but usually these things are items that come up in the after action review. So what are they? They're improper risk assessment. Did you underestimate the risk that you were approaching? Of course, everything that's on fire is risky, but there are peripheral factors that can complicate and compound that risk. Communications. A lot of times we're acting, especially in California, we're acting with multiple different agencies. Even in the 9/11 context, you had the fire department plus the police department all trying to function in the same radio band, and it just wasn't geared up for that. Lack of incident command. So the military is a really good example of that. They have a command and control element for every single incident, be it a fire that breaks out in the galley of an aircraft carrier or a plane that launches off the deck and into the water. There's always an incident commander. And so maintaining that continuity is really important. And sometimes that's not always there in the fog of chaos that occurs with a fire or any other serious emergency. Accountability. You might be wondering what we're talking about when we talk about accountability. And basically it's who's doing what, when are they doing it, or when did they start doing it, where are they doing it, and for how long. And so maintaining the location and the status of all of your resources operating in that emergency area. And then the SOPs and SOGs, either failure to enact them or failure to know them or failure to follow them. So a lot of these occurred in our after action review. And so Will and I, after some epiphanies, and we'll talk about that in a second, decided to address that. So you'll see a little Words with Friends icon there. I am probably, of all the Tahoe Silicon Mountain presenters, I might be the least technical. I'm a firefighter. I really embrace that identity and all of the traditions unimpeded by progress that go with that. So shortly after the line of duty death, word got out to a couple of the BCs that were participating on this panel that I had worked in the Pacific Northwest, and we had a pretty good accountability system up there for tracking our resources during emergencies. And one of them had approached me and said, hey, can you dig out those old materials and maybe pass them up to us, and we can have a discussion about it, and then we'll take it to the county and see if that's something that we can agree upon, a method of maintaining accountability for all these firefighters that are in the hazard zone. And I said, sure, I'll go home. And I actually did go home after duty that day. And, we're talking about a year and a half later. I'm out in the field. I'm, working as a firefighter actually in the station where those firefighters perished. So that was creepy and eerie in itself. So I went home and I sorted through my files from my previous fire department and pulled out a lot of the paperwork on accountability, and I kind of set it aside. And then I went to relax and was laying on the couch playing Words with Friends. And one thing I recalled from our accountability systems up in the Pacific Northwest is we would have, this really modern system where you take a Velcro name tag and stick it on a Velcro strip on this incident commander's plexi board or whiteboard, dry erase board. And when you moved assignments, it would pick up your name or your group of names and move it over. So, that was their accountability. There was no time stamping. It's just, they knew that you were doing something dangerous and they had you in a category of doing something dangerous. So I was thinking about that and I was playing Words with Friends. And every time I was dragging a tile onto the command board, just started to recognize that some things were going on. Number one, I was making information in a certain arrangement. Number two, there was a person on the other side of the world or the other side of the country that was seeing that information, responding to that. And it was happening in near real time. And I thought to myself, man, this Scrabble board really looks like a command board, like some of the command boards that our incident commanders that both Will and I are very familiar with over our, years in the fire service have used. It's like a grid system in some cases. And I thought, okay, this is actually a fire command board. And I'm just arranging tiles, which could be engine companies or truck companies or hand crews onto this playing board. And so I started making sketches, and I actually did them in crayon because, a lot of the tactical worksheets and command boards were in color. And so, after, I don't know, a few weeks of making sketches and thinking about it, I thought, okay, I have no knowledge, no training, no skill on how to take these sketches and digitize that into an aggregated platform, but I know the guy who does. And so I kind of looked at my wife and I said, if I pick up this phone, life is going to get kind of busy. And she said, well, you should do it because you don't want to be the guy 10 years from now that says you had the idea and then see somebody else manifest it, into being. And so I picked up the phone and wrote an email to Will, and he was pretty intrigued by the idea. And with that, I'll hand it over to Will.
Thanks, Andy. So, just make sure. Once we had the conversation, we wanted to, I have a programming background, but there was no way I was going to be building a mission critical application as a moonlight gig. So we wanted to do it the right way. So we went out and hired a UX designer to take our sketches that we went over and over again. And I think we reiterated on those for at least 6 months in terms of talking through those and those things. And the UX designer came back with something totally different, presented it to us, and we're like, whoa, that doesn't make sense. And then once we started to think about it, it actually made sense. The first, so we also went out and raised some money. So from a formal friends and family, got some seed money to get started and hire a contract development firm to build our application as a standalone application. So just to give you kind of a very high level timeline. So back in 2011, it was crayons, napkins, cocktail napkins, and contract developers. And then in February 2013, we actually launched our standalone version of Tablet Command, and it was standalone. It was just on the iPad. It was basically a tool that somebody could download from the App Store for $39.99 and start managing incidents, plug in their department configuration and build their checklists and start managing the incident when they arrive on scene. When we first presented it to some groups of fire chiefs, the unanimous feedback from all the fire chiefs was, hey, this is very cool. But we need to speed things up. We want to have that information from the computer-aided dispatch system or the 911 system delivered into the application, so it's just drag and drop. And that's something that we were thinking, but it was unanimous from all the fire chiefs that we shared. So in 2014, we just pivoted a little bit, and we ended up going out and developing essentially an API for our enterprise service where we could receive with middleware that sits at the 911 center. It's able to capture the calls that are going on in real time in the CAD, or the computer aided dispatch system, and deliver that information to tablet command in real time. And so since 2014, when the company pivoted a little bit more towards an API or service, software as a service model, that's when things kind of started to flow, if you will. So in 2014, there were 4 employees. It was Andy, myself, which we weren't getting paid. We had our CEO at the time, and we also had a full-time developer working for us towards the end of 2014. So to come to today, 2022, today coincidentally is the 9th, and we hired our 16th employee today, and we're planning on also having 17 just very, very soon. So what is tablet command? I'll fill in and start this, and then let Andy fill in the blanks in terms of what it does. So again, it started as a standalone application for managing incidents. So that's one of the core values of the application. If you build an application and its initial purpose is a standalone application on the iPad, that creates an amazing value to the application, which it operates completely fine with or without connectivity. So that was a core. So it manages incidents. And then we started, when we had those CAD integrations, we're able to deliver push notifications to users in the field, both firefighters or incident managers. And we're able to deliver notifications of call types or when units are assigned. So if a call type comes in, just to give you a background of how a 911 call might work, you pick up the phone, you dial 911, you're going to be connected either to CHP or your local police department first. They're going to transfer the call to the local fire agency, who's going to take down the information and capture the location of the fire, what's going on, and those type of details. When that happens, depending on how big the communication center is, another dispatcher is going to pick up that call from another computer screen and verify the address, and then find the closest units that will be assigned to that structure fire, to that wildland or grass fire report. So that could include anywhere from 1 engine if it's a very, very small fire, such as a trash fire, or it could be 5 to 10 engines, depending on the size of the response for a structure fire. So we're beating station alerting, which is their today notification system without tablet command. We're beating that by 30 to 60 seconds faster than the stations are getting alerted. And the reason we do that is we can, once the address and call type are verified, we send a notification out to the entire department to give them that situational awareness that there's a structure fire that's pending. So it gives them that kind of heads up kind of approach in terms of what's going on. So it gives them that jump. And I'll let Andy talk in terms of one of the other sections.
Yeah, so essentially, the way it looks for us in the fire station, we can be doing any number of things. I know that sometimes the conception in the United States, because of shows like Leave It to Beavers, that we're sitting around playing cards. And, after 1993, the fire service took on so many more disciplines. So we do so much more, from technical rescue to vegetation fires, obviously, to structure fires, car accidents, emergency medical. And so we're constantly training, we're constantly doing things around the station to maintain our equipment. It results in a busy day. One of the advantages to having tablet command on your iPhone is that you can get that immediate jump and heads up that you're getting a vegetation fire. This is what you're going to change into. This is what you need to be aware of, given the humidities and the temperatures of there. You're getting a structure fire, and this is where it's going to be. And this area maybe is prone to hoarders, or it's prone to other dangerous conditions. And so we're getting out the door a lot faster to the point where, other agencies that might not have had tablet command are saying, how did you get there so fast? Or even battalion chiefs are saying, how'd you get there so fast? And a lot of times we're out the door and dressed and ready to go, and rolling down the road by the time all of the lights and bells go off inside the station, alerting us to a fire. So then there's the incident management piece, which is essentially, I arrive at a fire with 2 to 3 other individuals, and we make up a company called an engine company or a truck company. We could be, I'm on engine 82. Well, that represents a tile in tablet command. And so now we're basically a game piece for the incident commander to slide into a critical action to mitigate that emergency, whether it's putting water on the fire or cutting a hole in the roof to let all the dangerous gases and smoke out. And they can time us and they can monitor our progress that way. And then there's several, and I'll let Will talk about it a little later on, but there's several other data aggregation aspects to tablet command. One being, en route to a fire, I can pull up a camera and look at the smoke production. That tells me a lot about what my tactics are going to be. That was situational awareness that we didn't have 10 years ago. In fact, that was so science fiction. We knew that, yeah, there were all these different siloed, disparate things that could do things out there, but to aggregate them onto one platform that made sense to an industry that is by nature very technophobic and make that accessible was a huge coup that Will and his development team have been executing for the last 5 or 6 years, to where we'll interact with customers and say, yeah, but it would be really great if you could, and then we'll push a button and say like this. And, it's a real shock and awe in terms of, wow, you actually did it. We thought it, but you actually did it. And so we can even watch when we're rolling to an incident, say we're on a second alarm, so we're part of a second wave, attack wave, if you will, how an incident is developing and who's performing what tasks. And we can guesstimate with pretty relative accuracy what task we're going to fall into just based on the command board that's time-stamped that the incident commander is building.
Thanks, Andy. And like here also is it's fully customizable by each department or each agency, including their checklist, their mapping, and we can integrate into anything, of course, from CAD to GIS data, vehicle location, drones, cameras, like Andy said. And again, anything that the incident commander is doing in their application is shared with the entire department in real time, so everyone can see how that incident or that command board is being managed. So this is an example of our map view. There's just a couple screenshots today for this call, but this map is showing essentially on the left units that have been assigned to the incident by the dispatch center, but have been unassigned in tablet command. And we break them out by alarm level so you can see what's being assigned by alarm level. And then out on the map, you can see a couple things. I'm going to try to circle it with my arrow. You can see here there's a vehicle location of BC1, and then you can see there's a tile for E or engine 23. And these both represent units. This represents Battalion Chief 1, but this vehicle it's actually a vehicle's physical location. So we can actually show where vehicles are traveling on the road and get that from various different sources, including CAD or the vehicle trucks, the trucks themselves. The engine 23 tile is a unit as well, but that's the incident commander dragging that unit out to that command board to show where engine 23 should be working versus their physical location. So kind of at a glance, the incident commander on a map view can see geospatially how the incident's built out, including these groups and divisions. You can see here RIC, or Rapid Intervention Company. You can see that there's crew. There's 2 units that are assigned. One's in a green status and one's in a red status. And then you can see that how the incident is built out in terms of all the different groups and divisions that they may have been assigned to. And groups and divisions of the fire service are similar to different divisions or departments inside of a company. So when an incident gets assigned or dispatched, the incident commander is going to take control and start building out that command structure, showing divisions, Division 2, and there's going to be somebody in charge of Division 2, and then additional units will just be dragged and dropped to those divisions.
One of the things I'll add to that as well is prior to the existence of any sort of technology like this, incident commanders were getting on the radio and asking a rundown of their first alarm units, their second alarm units, their third alarm units, their fourth alarm units. And that's taking up valuable radio bandwidth when one of the units actually in the hazard zone could be in a red status asking for something very critical to happen when the incident commander's attention is being taken away, because they're writing down their team, their roster. It's like a baseball manager writing their roster down at the beginning of every inning while they're also trying to manage the shift in the outfield. A lot of these images too should conjure up things for you all, like the game of Battleship or Risk, where you're actually moving pieces around a tactical board. And prior to tablet command existing, our incident commanders across the country were just drawing a box on a whiteboard with no time stamping. These units on the left, they automatically appear, and it saves tremendous amount of time, and it gives an accurate rostering of who's coming to that incident. And that can really influence strategy and tactics to the better. We had a comment once from a gentleman from the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, which is a foundation that supports families of orphans and widows of fallen firefighters. And he said, you may never know if you actually save a life with this, but you're also not going to know how many lives you've saved just by all the subtle improvements that you've made to situational awareness and safety in communications. And it's true. We're unconscious about how much this has enhanced our operations and made it more efficient.
Thanks, Andy. Here we've got the units view. So this is another view inside of our application. You can see, again, just similarly to the map view, you've got units that are unassigned on the left. Again, those are added by the dispatch center. And then you can see those groups and divisions that I talked about. And in this view, it's what the incident commanders are the legacy systems, or what they're traditionally used to, is dragging and dropping those magnetic tiles or using a legal pad to show who's in which column. So here you can see we're actually inspecting engine 1. And not only are we providing what units are assigned, but we can also integrate with various staffing solutions to show who is actually staffing those resources. So prior to tablet command, this information would be available maybe on a printed piece of paper that the companies would have to review in the morning or while they're at the incident. So what we're doing is we're essentially kind of aggregating everything down into essentially one pane of glass. So in terms of tablet commands numbers, like how widely is this being used? Well, our application, our enterprise service, has managed over 111,000 managed incidents across North America. We have just under 17,000 unique users using our application. That'll be either our iPhone application or our tablet application, which you just saw screenshots from. We have approximately 235 or more fire departments and agencies across North America using the application. And in 2022, very soon, we're going to have 17. We just brought on 16 today, employees. So in terms of things, what are we working on? The things that we're working on right now is we're continually working on integrations. One of the things that our team just got done doing is doing an integration with another source for vehicle location data from a large agency in California. So we're going to be able to provide the vehicle locations to other units in the field so they can see those resources from that other agency. Right now, we're also undergoing and preparing for a SOC 2 audit. And if anyone's familiar with the technology or the financial space, SOC 2 is it's a big lift. And as a smaller company, you would think that we're going through it potentially a little bit prematurely, but with all the latest security things and how important security and data is to protect our customers' data, we're undergoing that right now. And so we're fully compliant with that. We're just waiting to work with the auditors to do that very, very soon. Another huge feature that we're working on, which is incident sharing. So one of the things that we just released, and we'll talk about how it had an effect at the Caldor fire. One of the features, a sharing feature that we just released, is called vehicle location sharing. So we just released that before last wildland season, and it proved to be phenomenally beneficial. One of the things that we're working on right now is we're working on incident sharing. So if a agency, for example, Contra Costa County Fire or San Francisco Fire starts managing an incident, they're able to share that with other agencies, and the other agencies that are coming in either on automatic or mutual aid will be able to see their incident in real time. So it provides that kind of heads up or situational awareness to those agencies that are not part of their normal area or region or communication center. They're able to see that. So if they have those large campaign fires, you can see all the details from that.
This is one of the biggest features, I think, that contributes to the management of large scale incidents. It's already being used for large scale incidents, but again, Will and his dev team have just put together yet another valuable piece into that puzzle as well. It can be a challenge to do that. A lot of that has taken place on index cards, and now we're aggregating that onto our platform. So it's been a huge leap for us.
One of the other things that we're working on in terms of integration, and this is one example of the things that we're working on right now, is this is a fixed wing aircraft that's tasked out of Southern California to respond to wildland fires and other incidents that on request from other agencies. So this is some video footage. It's about a 50-second clip. What we're looking to do is to take this video is uploaded by the aircraft essentially in real time, made available to other partners and systems, and we want to actually provide this to our customers as well. Be able to have them just click something on the map and be able to view this type of information to give them, situational awareness of what's going on. So we'll just do a little quick video here.
Intel 24043022 at 152200 hours on the Cactus incident, San Bernardino National Forest. Looking at tanker 70. Attempting to drop on the right flank across the head. Fire started off Pinion Vista Trail. It's 27.8 acres and spotted across Forest Road 3N03 at the head. Multiple helicopters on scene. 95 Bravo, helicopter 301. And this will be the fourth drop of the fire. Tanker 70. Puts it IR. Puts it back to multiple spots, as you can see, on the right flank, also across Forest Road 3N03.
Got it up on the high side. You want to come around and take?
So that's something that's FIRIS. So that's Fire Integrated Real-Time Intelligence System. So that's an aircraft that's operated out of Orange County Fire Authority and with cooperation with Cal OES. So they're providing intelligence on, fires to give perimeters and also video and also infrared footage when requested, which is just absolutely phenomenal. So what Tablet Command is doing is looking to take something like this in terms of the information that's provided here, the video and the fire perimeter, and providing that to our customers inside of our application in real time. Let's go to the next slide. There we go.
Yeah, so some of the large fire departments that are using Tablet Command around California, and I'll mention in specific fire departments that have large scale incidents every day in the summer. Cal Fire, San Jose Fire Department, we just saw a very large Home Depot fire. That they had that fire right before they came on board, but San Bernardino County is the largest county in the United States. And as you saw in Will's video that you provided, they're running large-scale wildland fires, daily, that are scaling up and taking participation from Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, Los Angeles County, and then we have, we've expanded in the United States, Florida. Certainly, our wildland fire command structures certainly apply to their hurricane response command structures. Unfortunately, Florida also suffers from wildfires as well. And so they can apply that framework, everything from their basic residential structure fires all the way up to, large scale fires that occur in their agency, or large scale incidents, if it's a hurricane or flooding or whatnot. Charlotte, North Carolina, Clark County, Nevada, Colorado, the Denver Fire Department has repeatedly given us tremendously positive feedback for Tablet Command for some of their high-rise fires that have gone to multi-alarms. Adams County and Aurora Fire Department and surrounding areas are also big-time users of Tablet Command. And so we're continuing to add large cities around the United States to that, be them full-blown customers or deep in the sales funnel, or demonstrating a tremendous amount of interest and hoping to move forward.
Thanks, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So before I turn it over to Andy, Andy was assigned to the Caldor fire. He's got, I think, a pretty in-depth story for you. But one of the things that I wanted to share and try to depict for somebody that's not in the fire service is kind of a story is when I was a captain in Contra Costa, I was assigned to adjacent county immediate need strike team. A strike team is 5 engines and a battalion chief. And so I was a captain on one of those engines. And all we were told is essentially go to this intersection up in Solano County, and the incident commander's name is this. This is the such and such incident, and they're on this tactical channel that only works in that local small little area. So that's all that you're given. And so while you're responding, you don't have details in terms of what has transpired. You don't know where anyone is. You don't know what the conditions on the fire are. And so what I wanted to try to do was to showcase, when we built vehicle location sharing and when we're building incident sharing, it all comes from experience of not being able to have that situational awareness when you're going to someone else's incident. So, but I'm going to turn it over to Andy to kind of showcase the Caldor fire here.
Well, and I'm really glad that Will said that, because like one of the killers for wildland firefighters is fighting fire in an area unfamiliar to you. That happens every summer all over California. On the Caldor fire, we were bumping into firefighters from Los Angeles City, San Francisco, Washington State, Oregon. So this isn't country that's familiar to them. It's large timber, it's burning differently. And so having a sense of real-time mapping and real-time vehicle location was unbelievably revealing, and just made our operations much more efficient in terms of cross-referencing different aspects of data on tablet command, fire line data, vehicle location, modus data, hotspot data, and really having an understanding of what the fire is doing. A lot of times you're throwing a lot of resources and you're getting the word of someone with some old intelligence about how the fire is behaving, and people get hurt or structures get lost. And so having tablet command as a tool to use during the Caldor fire was just a very big step for situational awareness and firefighter safety. So what did my day look like at the Caldor fire? I was there for about 7 days. On day one, we were sent to the Christmas Valley, which is south of you all in the Truckee area. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it if you ski Kirkwood and you've stayed in South Lake. It's along that Highway 89 going towards Luther Pass. There's that group of homes, and there's 2 very steep valley walls that sort of feed into that Christmas Valley. And there was fire all around us and also approaching all of those houses. And so we were tasked with keep the fire out of the neighborhood. So that's what we did. We were able to look at where other units were operating with tablet command through vehicle location. We were able to look at hotspot data and how the fire was progressing as we were setting up our own units. And even with our overhead views, we were able to evaluate escape routes, landing zones for helicopters, evacuation zones for citizens and or hurt firefighters. These are things that you would guesstimate and triangulate on paper topo maps that were passed out, maybe a day before or later on in that day. And perhaps the fire conditions have changed. And now we're getting, as Will's displaying here, all of that in real time. And so we were able to utilize that information to more efficiently deploy our resources around the Tahoe region. Whether there were days where we were defending structures, and there were days where we were hiking in for miles to tend to fire line, and we could see using the tablet command platform where other agencies were in our area where we were operating. And this fire was so big. I mean, it just spanned such a large area. I think for me personally, it was one of the largest fires that I've been on. The Wine Country fires 1 and 2 also spanned a very big area as well. But having that situational awareness either in the palm of your hand with your phone or on your iPad in your rig or a handheld iPad made our operations that much more enhanced and safe.
Thanks, Andy. And the view here is, it looks like augmented reality, but I was trying to depict for everyone that's watching what that information empowers you to make. I mean, if you're driving without that information, it's essentially you're just driving down the road. You know what road you're on. You're looking at printed map, potentially, what units should be assigned to your division or you're an area, and you have essentially the smoke conditions. But with Tablet Command, you're able to see the vehicle locations of agencies inside your agency, but also outside your agency. So here you can see in the center of the screen, those units that are gray or black, those are units that you're not normally operating with on a day-to-day basis. They might be from these two are one's from San Diego and one's from Contra Costa. And you can basically tap on those units and see the last time they were updated. And you can see on your units what personnel are assigned. And the dots here might be depicted on a two-dimensional map inside Tablet Command to show what Andy mentioned is MODIS infrared hotspot data. So MODIS is a satellite that's operated, I believe, by NOAA, and it basically flies and provides updates in terms of infrared hotspots every 12 hours. So the data is old, but it provides firefighters, when they see that on a map, they can see what the hotspots are and where the fire actually is burning, as opposed to waiting for an additional 12 hours to get an updated perimeter report on a fire or on an incident. Andy, could you just talk about, in terms of, in addition to this information that we normally provide to our customers, we also provided the incident maps that were populated as well?
Yeah, that was fantastic, because obviously with a fire, you get limited connectivity in certain parts of the fire. And so having the ability to download the most up-to-date maps and use those as your underlay for that day, because every day the maps are updated. And if you're lucky enough to be around base camp, you might get a paper copy of that. But we were able to just download those maps via our offline map feature every day to have the most recent situational awareness of the fire. And morning briefing, we did attend morning briefing every morning. It was sort of like your battle plan for that day. And a lot of that activity started about 5:45 in the morning. And I'll tell you, by 7:30, I would have, 3-4 people from different agencies grab me by the arm saying, I just downloaded the map. This is incredible data. We've never had this before. I cross-referenced that with the vehicle location, and I've really got a great sense of where all my crews are operating. And so having that offline map feature, and then the rich map layers that we provide in addition to the vehicle location, again, was just like pulling the curtains back on a sunny day and letting the light shine in, because as Will sort of indicated earlier on, in years past, you're really you're doing a lot of guesstimation and flying in the dark. So this just, flattens that information structure for the people that, as we say, are pounding the ground out there, including myself as a ground pounder in charge of other people's lives. I want to have the best information that I possibly can. So those offline maps and that vehicle location were huge.
Thanks, Andy. So we're going to pause for a second, check in with Ellen in terms of the timing, maybe go to some Q&A or...
Yeah, let's try to get through a little bit of the Q&A, because we only have about 10 minutes left. I'll certainly be sharing links out. I know you had a 9 or 10 minute video that you thought I should share with our audience. I'm wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about timestamps and the running time and how that plays into how you're managing incidents, because we saw that on a few of your screenshots.
Yeah, I'll start and Will can finish. I love to make sports analogies all day long. And, if you're a watcher of football, either college football or pro football, you'll see the quarterback run to the side after, a set of unsuccessful downs or a successful set of downs, and pick up an iPad or some other tablet and look at what has occurred. And in a lot of different, and then they can reevaluate their approach next time they run onto the field. What happens with our timestamps from an after action review standpoint is we can look at the efficiency of crews. One of the benefits of timestamps is looking at the efficiency of crews. Crews should be able to ladder a building in a certain amount of time. Crews should be able to saw open a hole in the top of a building in a certain amount of time. Crews should be able to put water on the fire in a certain amount of time, and so on and so on and so on. And so whether we're talking about a small scale incident or a large scale incident, we can look at the way that the incident has progressed based on the timestamps that do get recorded in our activity view in a chronological fashion. One of the other benefits of timestamps is what you're seeing in front of you, or I would say the benefit of timing. You're seeing a variety of different LEDs, whether they're green or yellow or red. Fire or smoke should turn a certain color if you're getting adequate water on that. If you've got crews that are working in the red and that fire is still just growling away and black and roiling and you're not making very good progress, that tells you two things. Number one, you need to change your tactics. Number two, your crews are about to run out of air, or they're about to be significantly affected by fatigue and need to come out of that fire. So we can look at timestamps in terms of time on task, but we can also look at timestamps in terms of time in the hazard zone and whether we're being effective in the hazard zone or we need to reassess our tactics. Will, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, just real quick. The times here that are displayed, the big one in the upper right-hand corner, that's the time since the incident was created by the dispatch center. So it gives users an idea of how long this incident's been running, because you have a temporal distortion on a critical incident.
Mm-hmm.
PAR, Personnel Accountability Report, this is counting down. This resets every 20 minutes or when the users want that to reset. And PAR is just checking in to make sure you have an inventory of all your personnel, you know where they are and they're safe. And then we also have timers, like Andy mentioned, the color timers on each one of the units. And then you can look at the activity of each unit or in aggregate the whole incident in terms of seeing all those times. So good question.
I think I remember, Andy, you talking to me about, you just said something about how much air. Could you just double click on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we have, based on Will and I, our professional experiences in going into fires, breathing air from a bottle, that air is limited. And we have a heads-up display in our masks that will show you that you're either in the green, in the yellow, or the red in terms of the percentage of air that you have. We base these LEDs off of an estimation, a pretty solid estimation of your average firefighter and their ability to last on their bottle. Now, there are significant plans in the making to someday aggregate air telemetry data. So connecting to air packs via Bluetooth and other technology to show in real time the incident commander what the air capacities are for each crew operating the hazard zone, whether it's a hazardous materials incident, a confined space incident, a dive incident, a rescue dive incident, or a structure fire.
So there's a question in the chat about the scale of the incidents that Tablet Command has been used on. Can you sort of describe maybe, the amount of equipment, the number of personnel, the duration, how that's all, what are some of the bigger ones and what did that look like?
Yeah, I'll speak to it at a high level, and then I'll sort of hand the ball off to Will to sort of put the cap on that one. So the Calder fire, even from sitting in the comfort of your own home, you can see how many fire departments are on the Calder fire in the Tablet Command platform. So there were a lot of different fire departments from around California and beyond using Tablet Command at Calder and Dixie and a lot of the other large scale fires. And they were using it independently and comparing notes in terms of approaching our critical mass, so to speak, to where Tablet Command is the incident management platform for those large scale incidents where every other agency appears onto that. That day is coming, but right now agencies are using it next to each other on the same incident. Is it appropriate for a large scale incident? Absolutely. What's really great about Tablet Command compared to a lot of other solutions out there is you can start using Tablet Command from the very beginning of an incident when it is small scale and scale up from there. There are a lot of solutions out there that they're only appropriate for large scale incidents, and it requires a lot of inputs and things that require a lot of manpower and a lot of keyboarding to take in those inputs. Whereas Tablet Command is very expandable. And Will, I know you have a lot more to say about that.
Yeah, in terms of the management of our application, it's probably been used on 3, 4, 5 plus alarm fires inside local agency or auto aids from various agencies surrounding. And then on these campaign fires, like Andy mentioned, it's used by individual strike team leaders to manage their strike team from an accountability standpoint, but also to record those timestamps and those notes. And then at the user level, it's also used on these incidents. They can open up, they don't have to be assigned to a specific incident, but they can be on a campaign fire, open up TC Mobile, which is our iPhone application, or the iPad, and see things like the MODIS data, the vehicle location data, so they can use it at a user level or from a management standpoint.
Could you describe for our listeners what the number of alarms means?
Sure. Yeah. So an alarm is based off an agency's kind of response to a structure fire response or a wildland fire response. So a first alarm structure fire for an agency may entail 4 engines, which have water hose and a pump, and a truck. And a truck is it's got a big ladder on it, and then potentially 2 battalion chiefs. So that would be a first alarm residential structure fire. And as the incident progresses, they'll request additional resources, and they do it in alarm levels. So a second alarm then could be 3 engines, 1 truck, and 1 battalion chief. And then it's different for every single agency. And the same thing goes true for a wildland incident. So it's kind of pre-scripted per agency in terms of and based off call type, what the kind of preset alarm or preset number of resources they're going to send on each one of those alarms. So it's different for every agency, but it gives you a sense of, FDNY or the fire department in New York will, go to six alarms, and that's, just a gigantic fire, while, an agency like Contra Costa or, other agencies in the Bay Area or in the Tahoe region just can't sustain anything past a 3 alarm, and they're requesting mutual aid resources and strike teams, from outside the county. So that, I don't know if that gives a good answer. Just alarm.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have a pretty technical audience. What kind of technical limitations are there? I mean, what are you waiting for the technology to support so that you can fold that into your solution and it's going to, leapfrog you somewhere else?
That's a good question. In terms of the technology, in terms of leapfrogging, one of the things that we experienced on the Caldor fire and these campaign fires this last season was, as anyone that lives in the mountain or the Tahoe region knows, they lose cellular connectivity, I'm sure regularly when they're driving a car. And the same thing goes true for first responders out there. There's not, not yet, there's not a ubiquitous, easy solution that's just available to all fire engines that gets that data back and shared with everyone, either through, a mesh, to the technology enthusiasts that are on this webinar. Of course, there's mesh networking and there's satellite backhaul, but all of those things require a pretty good amount of administration or overhead to make sure that they kind of flow and it's pre-scripted, meaning if you're going to establish a mesh network, it's not something you can just say automatically happens, for example, on iOS devices. And I think the day that we get to that point when there's that kind of fundamental mesh technology that works no matter if you're off grid or on grid, I think that would really that would help people out in the backcountry in terms of fires for sure.
Just to add to that, I see this, we are tested by FIRE, which is split second decision making, but Tablet Command is a logistics management platform, so anything from an event, whether it's the Boston Marathon or the America's Cup or PGA golf tournament, I could see Tablet Command being a management tool for anything that's happening in the non-emergency context that requires logistics and resources.
Good. Well, I think we're almost out of time, but we have an audience primarily in Tahoe who's concerned as wildland fire season starts again. What would be the biggest advice you would give to the folks in the Tahoe area that would be helpful to people who are, coming to fight a fire in our region?
Yeah, I would say, follow your evacuation orders as best you can. Have an evacuation route. Watch your weather ahead of time. I'm sure that there's a lot of groups through Nextdoor and whatnot that are talking about red flag warnings or high wind warnings, humidity warnings. When that starts showing up in the weather, reports kind of 2 weeks out, it's time to maybe start gathering a go bag and make sure that, those ladder fuels around your house are cleared away. I know a lot of people love to stack their firewood underneath their decks. And for us, that's a pretty tough nut to crack when it comes to that being compromised by fire. So getting combustibles away from your house and just doing your best to build a sustainable, non-combustible dwelling and have that defensible space around your area. And then what are your evacuation checklists in terms of leaving curtains open or closing them, leaving sprinklers on your roof, having plans maybe in the next year or two to replace those wooden shake roofs. Maybe some of you have the resources to have a foam system that can expel foam onto the walls of your dwelling. So the one thing you don't want to do is, especially in that heavy timber, that fuel is hot from a long ways away. It's a very hot radiant heat component, and you don't want to be trapped because once you are trapped, it's pretty tough to navigate your way out of there. There are a lot of people that were entrapped in Napa, and they were able to wiggle out of there because that was a lot more light, flashy fuels, a lot of brush. I don't recommend it, but they were, because of the fuel package, they were to get out of there. But boy, with those heavy fuels, that's a tough prospect and a lot of narrow mountain roads so think about that. Think about Tahoe on a Sunday after a great powder day and what that looks like. And then think about your evacuation when it's on fire.
Anything to add, Will?
Yeah, just a couple things. It starts with pre-planning. So like Andy said, making sure your home is safe, having a go bag. And then in terms of, knowing your escape routes, but then, subscribing to things like the county's notice for evacuations, whatever that may be, if it's the reverse 911 system or, paying attention to things like Zone Haven, if that's used in your area, or Pulse Point. I don't know if Pulse Point's used in that area, but that provides me the ability to monitor the dispatch center as a citizen and see that there's a wildland fire that's been dispatched. And then I know, couple that with the weather in terms of the red flag warnings and paying attention to that. I know whether or not it's really, just a fire that's not really going to go anywhere, or if it's actually has potential to be wind driven, and then, taking action appropriately. So.
Yeah, I think our local agencies are a combination of Code Red and Nixle alerts.
Okay.
So good. Well, I hate to cut things off because I think this is a super interesting conversation, and I hope I'll entice one or both of you to join us when we're back in person. We do meet the second Monday of the month. For those of you who are watching now, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and sign up for our email newsletter. And I just want to thank Andy and Will again. It's been a pleasure having you on, and this is going to be super useful for people watching after the fact as well. So I'm going to wrap things up now and say